Hello, I am coming to you on what they call in the book world pub day to talk to you just a little bit about my new book that just came out. And I can't even believe I'm saying this because you know, if you follow me on social media, that this has been a really long time coming. It's been about 3 years that the process of this book being born has taken, and it's really surreal, you know, to be like holding the book, to be seeing people buying it, which we've been seeing for weeks with pre-orders. And mostly surreal that, like, the story that I've told in this book that took me 8 years to tell is finally out there. I knew in writing this book that I felt really called to write this book. I felt like for a long time I've been showing the amazing, fun lifestyle content on the other side of this life that I've chosen and that I worked really hard for. But I felt all of a sudden like I wasn't telling the whole story, and like just telling you guys on the podcast or maybe in a YouTube video or on social media, like I've been through hard times and I made changes in my life and now I'm here. I feel like you hear that from a lot of people, and I felt really called to show you what I've been through and what I've come through, to show you the choices that I had to make to first save my life when I went through what I went through at the beginning of this book, and then change my life, and then to live the life that you see on the other side every day. And if you follow me, you know I got 900 arms of my business. I didn't need to write this book. Writing books is a labor of love. It takes a long time, but I felt really called to. And the reason that I felt called to, like, take my picture off the front of the book and take my name off the front of the book. It's the message. The message that I wrote about in this book is one that changed my whole life. I have lived 2 totally different versions of life. The one before what happened to me and then the one after. And for the reader, just because you always see the other side, I wrote this for a person who, if you've ever felt like not enough or alone or despair or controlled by addictions, whether it's to that point or just numbing behaviors, if you've ever felt you're just trying to get through the 5-day work week to make it to the weekends because that is the only joy that you feel in your entire life, if you feel like you're just fine, or like the absence of bad is a qualifier for good in your life, if you wake up in the morning and you just feel like, I didn't think my life would feel like this, I thought it would be more, I wrote this book for you. I wrote this book for the reader. I wrote this book as a wake-up call to the fact, wake up, become aware. What are the things in your life that you need to focus on and alter to live fully, to live in a full life? And I don't want you to confuse the full life with like all these things that you see on the outside, or maybe some of the things that I've done in my life, Miss America or The Amazing Race, or the things you see on the other side, like the house and the family and these things. A full life is not a life that's just filled with things. A full life is a life that's intentional, that's led by values and priorities. A full life is one where you keep reassessing, where you do not take cruise control and just being okay as the way that you're going to accept your life to be. It's living a different way. And it's a road that I've walked in my own life that I alluded to, but now I'm sharing in the journey that I've been on in the book. I basically like walked off the Miss America stage and all of these amazing reality shows and spiraled out of control, almost lost my life to an addiction to prescription pills, and ended up in treatment for almost half a year. And what I went through and the things that I learned are something I knew I couldn't keep behind the curtain any longer. So in deciding to write this book, I was deciding to put all those things out on the table, and maybe people will view me as different, and that's okay. I hope that they do, because I know in the world of whatever you want to call an influencer or a person on YouTube that you watch, you see a lot of vibrance and you see a lot of joy reflected through your screen. And maybe you think to yourself, like, I could never have a life like that, or they've never been through hard things like me. And maybe they're not the same things. And maybe you have been through harder things. I do not doubt that part of my story has been very blessed. But part of my story was very hard. And part of my story, I was in such a level of despair that when a doctor looked at me and said, if you keep doing what you're doing, I don't think that you're going to live much longer. I thought to myself, I've lived a good life and I would rather go out like this than expose my vulnerabilities. That is how much I wanted to keep this close to me years ago. And then something shifted, and luckily this book was born. I'm so grateful for the platform that I have that gave me the opportunity to write this book and gave me the opportunity for people to even care about anything that I say. And I believe that that's the reason that I have been handed the platform, was to share this story and to really tell you the behind the scenes of how I truly changed my life. And I wrote about a lot of things in this book. I wrote about the different times in my life that I have broken through something to a fuller life, because they always look different. And if you're a person that's like, I don't have an addiction, I don't need to read this book, that's like 2 chapters of the book. That's the red flag, the wake-up call. You have to remove that from the situation, or else there's no way to fulfillment. But the whole rest of this book is written to the you who's like me now, who's living life. Maybe life is not going good, or maybe it's going pretty good, but is controlled possibly by the voice of fear. Maybe you're letting fear drive your decisions, and there is no easier way to take a road opposite of the road of fulfillment than if you're driven by the voice of fear. It is about living in legacy mode today, not waiting until you're 75 and you're at the end of your life to think about the person that you want to be remembered as. I'm from a family that's totally obsessed with legacy and living life with like your legacy in mind every day. Even as a young person, they told us about this when we were little kids, and we were always like, I don't even have a job. What is a legacy? You know, how am I leaving a legacy? But I learned that there is a way to live a legacy every day, in the way that you parent, and the way that you show up for your family, and the choices that you make. About how it's like a wake-up call. If you have, you know, me in this story where I was covering something up, it was my prescription pill addiction. It had gone off the rails. But if there is any numbing behavior or anything, and a conversation that needs to be had, something that needs to be addressed, a change that needs to make, maybe you need to leave your job, whatever it is, sometimes that issue is like buried so deep that you don't want to face it. You keep numbing it out, and it manifests into all of these wild things on the outside. If you don't pull the things to the surface that you need to work through to live a bigger life, they will manifest themselves into the light of day in the craziest ways. So I talk about that, and I talk about how to like get the shovel out and start digging. Some things are easy, some things are hard, but the life on the other side, Lord have mercy, is worth it. I talk about how we become attached to things like good and bad. So an attachment to a drug addiction, bad. You've got to rid that from your life. But also, 2 of the huge things that I learned while I was in a program for recovery had to do with my attachments. I opened the whole book with the story about how they're removing my hair extensions for the first time in 10 years. I had these long blonde hair extensions. They're removing these hair extensions from my hair for the first time. And they turned my chair around and had a full out-of-body life flash before my eyes experience, because I did not know the person staring back at me in the mirror without hair extensions. That is how deeply attached I was to them. And I know I'm sitting here, these are removable ones. I still haven't had permanent extensions since that day. I'm like scarred. But I don't have an attachment anymore. You can become so attached to remaining the person that you were, or looking a certain way, or a certain title or a job, that it can stand in your way of fulfillment. Even a thing that does not seem harmful, like hair. those shiny objects and those things that you hold up in front of yourself, the titles, I did that for a long time. They will stunt your growth. They will stand in your way. They will keep you from connecting. They will keep you from living fully. I wrote about that. I'm going through my table of contents right here so I don't forget anything. I talk about my grandparents and their generation, and how in our generation, I feel like people value comfort and ease in their life, and how back in the day they lived a different way. They faced adversity in a way that was just like, I accept this. I'm not going to go the other direction. This is just my life. Adversity didn't steer them in the wrong direction. It also didn't halt their life. I'm not here saying be Pollyanna and like smile your way through something bad happening. Absolutely not. I'm just saying choose your life again on the other side of that. I'm just saying don't be afraid of adversity. Be more afraid of missing out on a life that includes these things. Because the good things in life are full of adversity and full of pain, but the life on the other side, I know I've said it 10 times, is so amazing and so worth it. I also talk about ignoring the voice of, ignoring the noise. So I wrote a whole chapter about, we live in such a busy world. If we have 2 seconds to ourselves, we're filling it with cell phones. There are so many voices coming in just in a busy, busy world that I think we can't hear sometimes the answer, the right answer. We can't hear ourselves think. We can't hear a voice that's calling us to another direction or somewhere else. And I've learned that it's so important to learn to quiet that noise in your life, because it can control you. It can point you in the wrong directions. It can drown out, like I said, callings and voices that you need to hear, that I need to hear. So I talk about that. I talk about how, you know, when we're little, it's so easy to know the things that you're good at and your passions and feel like the world is just in full color in this vibrant experience. And then how, as we come into adulthood, how it's like the world just scrapes a little bit of that off of you and you're way back to finding the things that make you you. I shared for the first time my sister's story and our family story about losing Blaze 2 years ago, and how love prevails through that. How even through the most horrendous experience that I've ever been through, and that especially my sister and brother-in-law have been through, love prevailed. And how my sister, and through this situation, she chose not to close herself off to joy and possibility and hope, even after she'd been dealt the toughest card that you can be dealt in losing a child. And I wrote about a lot of other things, faith and manifesting and vision boards and perspective, and when life throws you curveballs, like it always does, like mine has, how to make the next right decision so you don't go in the wrong direction just because you want to get out of the pain of whatever that curveball has dealt you. And a lot of other things. And then, you know, I end the book with that. I want this book to be your wake-up call. I want it to be the thing that says, oh my gosh, first off, there is a highly elevated life available to me. Second off, look, she's been through something like knockdown, drag out, almost died from it, and came back from that. I want you, though, to take me completely out of the story and look at your own life and realize this is it. It's the only shot. And realize that, like, you want to and you will finally take your life back into your hands, that you have been woken up to whatever it is that maybe you need to alter in your life. You don't have to overhaul your whole life to do this. You have to have awareness to figure out the changes that need to be made. But then I want it to be your wake-up call, your continued wake-up call over and over and over, as your life, your old life, the easy life, the comfortable life, will continue to call your name in the distance, will continue to bring you back to baseline. It's the way that the world is. We are always returning to the way that things were, to cruise control, to baseline. But I want this to be your continued wake-up call. I want you to notice when you're slipping back into that. I want you to choose something else. That's what I do now. I slip back into it all the time. We all do. It's life. But the difference is, when that happens to me, I choose a different way. And that is my sole purpose. I didn't write this book for me. I didn't write this book for to check something off of a bucket list. I didn't write this book for praise. If I would have liked praise, I probably would have left the hard stories out. I wrote this book for you. I wrote this book simply and only because I want it to help move the needle just a little bit or a lot for anybody that feels like they're not living their fullest life. And thank you if you've already ordered it. And if you haven't, thank you if you do order it for giving it a chance. I hope that you love this book. It's on audiobook. It's available everywhere that books are, Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Nobles, and Target. And if you do go into Target too, all of the video walls in February, you'll see my book trailer, which is a really cool thing that we did to kind of like describe what's in the book. It like felt like filming a movie book trailer. It was amazing. And if you like it, I would love if you would leave me a review. That helps so much. A very nervous first-time author sharing a story that was hard for me to share. And I just want to say thank you. And I just want to say that I'm happy to be here today, finally sharing my story and putting this out there and living fully out today. Check it out.